back down the woods, and to those who are watching from various locations around the globe. So today we're going to be going over the 6 principles of cordiality, because sometimes we just need a reminder to be friendly, right? So that's what we're doing today. So the Buddha originally taught this to his monks, but I honestly think it applies to just as well to us. So we're going to go through it. Anywhere where it says monk, apply that to you. Wherever we are. And we are on the very bottom of 116. This is coming to us from the Anguttara Nikaya, which is one of the books, the many books of the Buddha's teachings. And the Buddha says, monks, there are these 6 principles of cordiality which create affection and respect and conduce to cohesiveness, non-dispute, concord, and unity. What 6? Here, a monk maintains bodily acts of loving kindness towards his fellow monks, both openly and privately. This is a principle of cordiality that creates affection and respect and conduces to cohesiveness, non-dispute, concord, and unity. Again, a monk maintains verbal acts of loving kindness towards his fellow monks, both openly and privately. This, too, is a principle of cordiality that creates affection and respect and conduces to cohesiveness, non-dispute, concord, and unity. And the translator has very generously taken out all of the repetitive portions that the Buddha usually puts in there. Right? You had to learn by memorizing stuff, and repeating it is a good way of memorizing it. Again, a monk maintains mental acts of loving kindness toward his fellow monks, both openly and privately. This, too, is a principle of cordiality. Again, a monk shares without reservation any righteous gains that have been righteously obtained, including even the contents of his alms bowl, and uses such things in common with his virtuous fellow monks. This, too, is a principle of cordiality. Again, a monk dwells both openly and privately, possessing in common with his fellow monks virtuous behavior that is unbroken, flawless, unblemished, unblotched, freeing, praised by the wise, ungrasped, leading to concentration. This, too, is a principle of cordiality. Again, a monk dwells both openly and privately, possessing in common with his fellow monks a view that is noble and emancipating, which leads out, for one who acts upon it, to the complete destruction of suffering. This, too, is a principle of cordiality. These monks are the 6 principles of cordiality that create affection and respect and conduce to cohesiveness, to non-dispute, to concord, and to unity. So we have here basically the Buddha saying, this is how you be friendly, this is how you work with people, this is how you make whatever work environment you're in a good place to be. Right? So let's look at each of these in turn, because they do require a little bit of explanation in some cases. Right, so the first one down there at the bottom of 116, a monk maintains bodily acts of loving kindness towards his fellow monks, both openly and privately. This could be misinterpreted in so many different ways. We're not going to do so. Right? What the Buddha is talking about here, so loving kindness in the Buddha's sense is not some kind of, it is not like a romantic or familial or any other kind of love. This is a generic love for all beings, right? This is not specific to any one individual, right? So bodily acts of loving kindness for a fellow monk would be things like, monk is sick, he's sitting on the bed, racked out with the flu. You make him, by your bodily actions, you make him some soup. That's an act of loving kindness, right? And that's the kind of things that lead towards cordiality. That's the kind of things that lead towards respect and foster that environment that is cohesive, non-disputing, in concord, and united, right? That's how you do that. Same thing with verbal acts and mental acts, right? So you don't mental acts that don't conduce towards loving kindness. Wow, let's take a look at that one. What kind of things can you think of that might fit that definition?
Repeat the question.
So what the Buddha is saying that mental acts of loving kindness towards one's fellows is a principle of cordiality. What would a mental act of non-loving kindness look like?
Rude behavior.
Being rude, yep. Well, it's specifically rude thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm.
What other kinds of thoughts would meet that criteria?
Want to choke somebody out?
Yep, that'd do it. Holding grudges,
Mm-hmm.
that'd be one. Being really angry for no reason, right? Do those things, and you're not going to have unity. You're not going to have concord. You're not going to have cohesiveness, right? This is fairly basic stuff, right? Do the things which conduce towards that, right? Think about your peers in ways that are that demonstrate loving kindness. That's too easy, right? We're supposed to do that all the time. We're supposed to respect people. We're supposed to have that loyalty to them. We're supposed to have, that we're supposed to honor them, right? And that's kind of what the Buddha is getting at here, right? So if we're living the Army values like we're supposed to, we're already doing this. Not super hard, most of the time. Granted, some coworkers, it takes a little more effort than others. Fair enough. So verbal acts of loving kindness, that kind of follows with the mental acts, right? You're not gonna sit there and like cuss out your coworker, cuss out your peers on your team just because, right? You're not gonna be like, oh, you dumb blah 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 blah. Right? Is that gonna conduce towards cohesiveness and unity? No. But things like, hey, I got your back, pal. Would that conduce towards cohesiveness and unity? I think so, right? And that's what we're supposed to be doing anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, we are already, by following the Army values, already doing essentially what the Buddha is telling us to do, right? We're just maybe not quite at the level that he wants us to be. Specifically with 4, 5, and 6. So, let's go through those ones. Oh, this one, actually, we can tie this one into selfless service fairly easily. This one makes a lot of sense. Right, so let's look at it again. A monk shares without reservation any righteous gains that have been righteously obtained, including even the contents of his alms bowl, right? So we don't do alms bowls in the US, we don't do alms bowls in the Army, but we do MREs, right? You go to the field, you eat some MREs, somebody didn't have something, and you have it, would you share it with them? Right? Being a decent human being, probably yes, right? My chili mac didn't come with a spoon. There's mine. I don't need it. Something like that, right? That's sharing the contents of your alms bowl, as it were, right? But the whole point there is sharing, offering that kindness, offering that loving kindness, and sharing with your peers. That leads to cohesiveness because you've built that trust and built that respect by doing the right thing, by helping them out when they needed help, right? That's how you build cohesiveness. That's how you build unity. That's how you build a really good team. Working together to get the job done. Fairly painless, right? Number 5. Again, a monk dwells both openly and privately, possessing in common with his fellow monks virtuous behavior that is unbroken, flawless, unblemished, unblushed, freeing, and so forth, praised by the wise. How is this going to lead to cohesiveness? Think in terms of Army values. What value does this kind of bring to mind for you? I can think of one right off the top of the bat. Right off the top. This would be integrity, would it not? Behavior that is unbroken, flawless, unblemished, freeing, praised by the wise, leading to concentration. If you're acting with integrity, all of this comes as a result, right? Fairly painless. Number 6. Again, a monk dwells both openly and privately, possessing in common with his fellow monks a view that is noble and emancipating, which leads out to the complete destruction of suffering. Here, I'd love to say this one is selfless service. It partially is, but there may be other things tied in with it as well. Right? What do you guys see in this? Having a view that is emancipating, that prevents one from suffering. What does that tell you? What is that? How does that speak to you?
It may relate, may not, but simply the energy that I put out will be the energy that I give back is from my fellow individual who I'm speaking with.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I can see elements of duty in it as well, right?
Oh, yes.
There we go. Right? So what we're really talking about here, the principles of cordiality, are essentially the Army values just rewritten 2,500 years prior. I think that made sense. I'm going to go with it either way. So we have these principles of cordiality. We have these things that the Buddha is saying, do this and you will be able to work well with others, that you as a community will be able to be cohesive, to have unity, right? What's not to like about that, right? And if we're tying this into with the Army values, if we're saying, hey, these actually fit pretty well, what does that say about the Army values? Should we be doing that too? I think the Buddha would say, yeah. I think the Buddha would take a look at it and say, yep, that meets what I'm talking about. Let's do that. Yay, too easy, right? Yay. So, ultimately, sometimes we do need, and like I said earlier, sometimes you do need a little bit more help making these actually happen, because there are people out there in every formation, regardless of what formation that is, in every unit of every size, that are going to be harder to work with, that are going to be less cordial, that are going to be less interested in being cohesive, less interested in being in promoting and developing a unity of effort, right? There are going to be those people out there. What you need to do, what we all need to do, according to the Buddha, is we need to practice this ourselves. We need to practice this cordiality. We need to practice building this cohesiveness ourselves. And we can do that both by following the Army values and by following the 6 principles that the Buddha has listed here. It's not incredibly hard, right? So I'm going to leave it to you guys to figure out how to do that. Just know that this is what the Buddha is saying we should be doing, right? So we are going to move on to the longer meditation. Download this at home. Just do what you will.